Hi, my name is J. Patrick Boland, and once again I'm here with my trusted colleague Walter Douglas, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So I'm from Cleveland, and my channel is all about music. And there's something about Cleveland that's hard to explain if you didn't grow up here. For a long time, it wasn't just another stop on a tour, it was the test. The winters were cold, in fact they're still cold. The crowds were loud, and the music, it had to be real. At the center of it was a venue called the Agora. And the Agora was more than just a room. It was a proving ground, a gathering place, a place where moments happened, and if you were lucky, those moments lasted. I've spent years thinking about that room, walking through it, learning its history, trying to understand why it really mattered, and why it still matters. It shaped musicians, it shaped audiences, and in many ways, it shaped me. As part of this documentary, I sat down with Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, Neil Spyder Giraldo. And I can say with full honesty, it's my favorite artist interview I've ever done. Over the last several years, I've gotten to know Neil a bit, and he's literally the nicest person I've met in the music industry so far. And while all the artists I've had the opportunity to work with on this project, well, they've all been fantastic, and they've all been very generous with their time. There's something about Neil, though, something about him that he just makes you feel at ease. He makes you feel like you're the most important person in the room. And I think that shows in the interview I did with him. There's a comfort to our conversation that I think you'll feel when you watch it. It feels personal. It feels real. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about Cleveland. We talked about the fans. We talked about the musicians. And we talked about something even bigger. We talked about what it meant to capture a moment before there were any safety nets. What follows are select excerpts from my conversation with Neil. And I hope you enjoy this video as much as I enjoyed sitting down and talking with him. And if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. The support is very much appreciated. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this video.
Now he's my road manager.
Yeah,
He's hilarious, yeah.
Yeah.
I've already done my interview.
He was practiced.
I'll check
Yeah.
back.
Thank
All
you
right,
for your
Ted.
help.
Thanks, Ted.
I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah.
Now, I think we two were talking on the phone once, and you were talking about The Mistake.
Yes.
What memories do you have of The Mistake? Because The Mistake was the club that was underneath the Agora.
Yeah, the Agora was phenomenal. Hank Lacani, he's like, what he did for the city for music was phenomenal. Because he created a goal. That was the goal. Get to the Agora. Walk down the stairs, get to The Mistake. I actually loved The Mistake. And truthfully, that music that was going on in The Mistake was where I wanted to live, underneath the subterranean world right there, right? That's where I wanted to be, at The Mistake. Because all the blues acts were coming in, the rhythm and blues acts, different than the Agora, which is more pop and rock, right? But yeah, I loved The Mistake. I remember Robert Jr. Lockwood would play down there, and he always had great stories. And the band from Youngstown, I think I Don't Care, played in there, and it was just a great collection of different kind of music.
Being from, I've talked to you about this before. I have no problem admitting to the people that I interviewed that I'm a fan. You're one of my favorite guitarists.
Well,
but you're also from Cleveland. One of the things that Hank used to tell me was that the Agora was famous for almost helping to break bands that weren't from Cleveland. But then he would talk about the talent that was from Northeast Ohio, and he would talk about how sometimes the openers would often show off the headliners.
Mm-hmm.
You being from Cleveland. Can you talk about the talent? I mean, because you just got inducted to the Rock Hall. I mean, I just love your story.
Thank you.
Can you talk about the talent like that from Cleveland a little bit?
Yeah, the talent pool for musicians in Cleveland was exceptional. Blue collar city. So that means when people there's not a lot of people. I mean, there's people working in offices that are business people, men and women, but there's a hardcore blue collar working class in Cleveland, and the weather didn't kind of give you an opportunity many times to get outside in those terrible winters. And if you're a musician, you get to play all the time. And there were just great musicians everywhere. I mean, they were learning, studying, and playing. I mean, when I joined Derringer, I kept thinking, my God, there could have been 1,000 guitar players in Cleveland that could have easily been able to get that gig. I mean, they're just great players. I enjoyed playing with everyone. I really did.
But now, in a similar note, the fans from Cleveland. I know one of the things that I uncovered through this was that back in at least in the '70s, I know maybe it's changed a little bit, but that the record companies considered Cleveland kind of a testing ground. I read in one article it said that Cleveland had an intelligent palate for music when it came from. So if it could break in Cleveland, it could break elsewhere. Can you talk about the fans? I mean, you've played in Cleveland. I mean, you still come back, and it seems like
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the fans?
Yeah. The fans of Cleveland are the best in the country. There's no question. There's no question. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of Japan. Not in volume, but when you go to Japan and you get off the plane, they have everything. They're like pure fans. They know every single thing you did. They got stuff they were showing me. I couldn't even remember when I did that. I went, wow, look at that. I forgot I even did that. That's Cleveland fans. But then the decibel level of a Cleveland fan at a concert is phenomenal. I mean, there's nothing like Cleveland fans. They are just, they're incredible. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, I saw something recently with Huey Lewis talking about like the heart of rock and roll, how he wrote that song after playing the Agora one night. Which can you talk about also like the importance of, I know I talked briefly. Oh my God, I can't think of his name. The guy who manages Alice Cooper.
Oh, yeah, I should know.
I'm a huge fan. Shep Gordon.
Shep Gordon, there you go.
Yeah.
Shep Gordon, right.
And he was saying like you had to play the Agoras back in the day to make it correct. Can you talk about like small clubs like that? Like, how do they play a part in breaking a band back then? Do you have any memories of that?
Yeah, I do, because again, the Agora gave you sort of this elite status. So if you were at the Agora, you were an elite band. So that means the word of mouth happened and a lot of people would come. The fans would come on a local level and see local bands, right? That was happening a lot. I had it at the Viking Saloon because that was more of an underground type place, more of the kind of music we were playing. But that's what the Agora did. And it was, like I said, it was fantastic.
One of the things that we're exploring in this documentary in context of the archives, because they're all in the old, the analog format, is are we better off now than we were back then? And this is, I think when we asked John Oates the question, he's like, I can go on for hours. I can't answer that. But nowadays, when you think about you talk about your first concert experience, is the reason why I asked that. Because nowadays you come, and I go to a lot of shows, and having been a former owner of the Agora, I've seen a lot of shows there.
Mm-hmm.
How do you first of all, like to play the circuit and break it, it would be hard to do that these days, I imagine. But like with the idea with cell phones and being like, you're not in the moment, those smells that you picked up on, any thoughts or feelings on that question?
Well, yeah, that's a whole day, 24-hour answer right there with that one. Living in the moment, that is very easy to explain, and I'll give you my opinion on that. It's not that being that old guy that doesn't do what the young people do. It's not about that. It's about a moment. When you went in to make a record, you were all about capturing a moment. When you listen by and you do 25 takes of a song, you may take 11 may be the one. If you hear take 10, and take 12, they're not going to be anything close to that 11. That's creating a moment in time that will never exist again. So when you were creating those moments on analog tape and you didn't have a safety net, like digital world, there's a safety net. You can record something once and fix it with 1,000 apps. You can do whatever you want with that. But creating that one moment was really special. Take that moment and go live and play that. The inspiration that you had when you capture that moment is what you give to fans when they come to see you play every night. That's what you get. You don't get a sterilized studio recording of a thing that's all put together, because you did something, and it happened all the time. I'm writing a couple books. One is a memoir about myself, but the story isn't as important. I mean, I'm not as important as the story, because the story is incredible. Because first of all, because I shouldn't even be alive, because I was born I wasn't breathing when I was born, and my name was supposed to be Nunzio, but that's a whole other thing. It ended up Neil because the pediatrician's name was Cornelius Cassidy, and my parents were so happy they finally got a boy because they had my sister, that they named me Neil after Cornelius. Had I be Cornelius Cassidy, I would have been probably a boxer and I wouldn't have been a musician. So that's a whole other story. But that moment is special and pure.
Yeah.
And that's what you give the audience when you play every night, when you've done that, rather than recreating something that was polished and put together.
Yeah. You generally, I don't know why you I'd ask this anyways, but like, I get the sense, and I got the sense which I was really impressed with. Never been a big Kiss fan, but like, I was impressed with the fact that like, they still genuinely love to play. Mm-hmm. Like, that was not fake.
Yeah.
You could tell that wasn't like just from talking. They still get amped up. Do you still get amped up for like, do this all? I mean, it's got to be something to keep it.
Well, yes and no. Here's how that goes. We just got done doing those stadium shows with Pink. We got one coming up in October as well. In front of 40,000, 45,000 people, stadium, right? So before you go on stage, just like an athlete before they hit a field, they're very calm. It's a very calming thing because you don't want to expend that energy too quick. So you keep really inside yourself. I mean, I'm talking about me personally. I mean, other people may have their, ramped up. They're all like, I'm not. I'm very calm, real collected. And then as soon as I get out there, and the whole thing is that I try to find this chi where it's like a protection. I have this protection around me, and I have to be the best that I can be in order for the people to enjoy the best that they can hear, right? Mm. So I don't get amped up like, I don't do any of it. I just walk up there and here I am. Look out, man. I'm ready. And it's just like, that's it. Like, I call it Jerry Lee Lewis blood is what I call it.
Yeah. Last question, I promise.
Sure. No problem.
You talk about like that, speaking like the arenas, like when we interviewed Jerry Harrison, and he talked about playing like the US Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, how come it seems like artists so often love the experience of playing when you play 40,000. I can't imagine playing at 40,000. When you guys played Wrigley Field, Jesus Christ.
It's fantastic.
Excuse my language, but like, what a spectacular thing, But then it always seems like the smaller, like the club atmosphere type stuff, it seems like artists still really, really long for that. Is that something you can relate to, or am I off when I sense that from people?
Certain people, some people like the intimacy of the smaller thing. I want 40,000 people. I'm telling you. I did the US Festival too. We did it too.
Oh, you did?
What was it, 200,000 people, whatever it was. But the whole thing is that you they're out there listening, but you're really just playing, you're trying to connect your music to what all the musicians on stage, and they're going to get to it. If you really worry or think about what the person way in the back's doing, you're going to be a mess because it's impossible.
I always ask that question is like, what's the difference of connecting with? How do you connect with that person when there's just that many people out there? It's like, it just seems like it would be what a cool thing to be able to do.
It's connecting is sort of it's like an automatic thing. I think a little bit of problem I have with smaller venues is that cell phone issue. People refuse to put the cell phone down. If they held the cell phone up and at least didn't look at it and be a part of the moment or whatever, I could see that. But they're this, and their mouth is open, and they look really bad. Like, why are you doing that? What's your point of that? This makes no sense. And you know what? The bigger ones, some people have their phones, but not everybody. But you talked about promoters too. Bill Graham did the US Festival.
Oh, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was part of that. And him and I got along really well. I get along with just about everybody. It's really not that difficult, right? And I remember he was talking to me before, and it's funny. A lot of stuff's, I'm not even close to all the stuff. Ooh, that's my phone. I better turn that down. Inside my book, there's going to be thousands of things, stories that you won't believe that were never told, and a story between Patricia and I and how this partnership began and what it was that nobody really knows about. So that's going to be good. And also part of the book too is there's going to be a playbook part, how I did all those songs, and how they happened, and how they were written, and how they were produced, and the difficulties, and what I did to make those records. I mean, it's just stuff that I think a lot of people, I don't think you'd have to be a musician to enjoy it. I think you could just be anybody to kind of enjoy that,
Yeah. When do you expect to release that?
I hope to have it done in about 6 months, maybe 9 months.
You're panned in so many different things.
Oh, God.
You still doing the whiskey?
Yeah, I still got the Spirits Company. That's going on 6 years. Wow. 6 years, we're in 40 states.
Wow.
Yeah, I got a great, I don't want to use the word give back because people use it as a marketing ploy, and I do not do that. I do it because I want to follow in the footsteps of my father, who was a very gracious, one of the greatest men in the world. At 95, yeah, he was responsible for everything. Yeah, he was fantastic. My mother as well. It was interesting because my father bought the guitar and he was tone deaf. When I went to church, my sister was in the end, my mother was here. I was next to my mother. My father was on the end. My mother could sing. She was in tune. Father was out of tune. It was like vertigo. I was going crazy. Going, what is this sound? Oh my God! It was like crazy. And but he loved music, Italian songs. He loved all that stuff. So
was that hard? Obviously you're older, but was that? I don't mean to get too personal, but just having recently lost my mother, you knew that.
Yes.
Having lived most of your life with him, someone who had such an influence on that, was that?
It wasn't hard at all. No, it was so peaceful. Yeah, I smile every time I think of him because he was just so funny and just really great. What I was going to say about my mother, she was like the warden. So had it not been for her, I probably wouldn't be here either because she was I love football. How could you not love football growing up in Cleveland, right? I'd be playing street football, tackle, and then all of a sudden she'd open the door. Neil, get in here. You got to practice. Oh, no, I don't want to practice. I hate practice. 30 minutes a day. Had it not been for her, I probably wouldn't have practiced as much as I had to. She made me,
Well, I think that's a good spot to end it. I think